Hey, this is Lee Waller, and welcome to this tutorial in After Effects. Today I want to take a look at track mats. There's two types of track mats in After. Now, a track mat is a layer in the composition that is used by another layer to define transparency. Transparency is the part of an image that is seen and not seen. The track mat is directly above the layer using it. So there's always going to be two layers involved in a track mat. The alpha mat is an image that is a mixture of transparent and opaque areas. The Luma Mat is based on luminance values, or the bright values and the dark values. So I have several examples of using an alpha mat and a Luma Mat. Let's look at this first one. So down in our composition, you'll see this set up. The bottom layer in this track mat setup is the footage of the fire, and then the top layer, which will be our track mat, is the word fire itself. So to apply this track mat, I'm going to go to this track mat column right here. If you're not seeing that, you can drop down here to toggle switches and modes. You might have all of the switches there. Click on that and you'll have the modes pop up, and there's the track mat. So we drop down to that column on the fire footage and we tell it to use the alpha information from the text layer fire. So we're going to select that. And now, just like that cookie cutter, the word fire cuts into that footage, and that is all that we see. So now with that animation, you see how that track mat works. Now I can invert that. So let me jump into here and invert that. And you'll see that it's cutting a hole through the fire itself, and anything that is below it. So if I go in here and move this layer behind it, you can see that there is movement in there. So it can be used in a couple of ways to create transparency. So I'm going to go back to the original alpha mat, and there we have that one. Now I want to take a look at the Luminance Mat, which is based on the bright and dark areas of an image. You'll see that I have this footage here. Let me scrub through that. You'll see the footage here of this smoke. And based on the bright and dark areas of this, we're going to use that luminance information as a track mat. In the composition here, the smoke footage is on top this time, and that's what we're going to use as the mat. And I'll just hide that real quick. And underneath it, you'll see the word smoke. And so I'm going to come here to the word smoke, and it is on the bottom. The track mat is on the top. I'm going to come to the track mat column here. I'm going to select the Luma Mat of the footage. And now, based on the bright and dark areas of that footage, we see the word smoke appearing and disappearing. I can move that footage down a little bit if I want it to affect the word a little bit more. And just to show you again, there's the footage. Again, based on the dark areas and the bright areas of this, we are revealing or showing the word smoke. So there we have the Luma Mat and the Alpha Mat. In this example here, I'm using it to animate in and animate out some text. So right here, I've created a layer that consists of a solid that has the effect Mr. Mercury on it. And I've made a few changes to it. And so you'll see how that Mr. Mercury animates in and continues to fill the screen. So what I'm doing is, based on the alpha information, which in this case, the black area is going to be what will be visible, and then everything outside of that is what is invisible, we will animate in the text. So again, let me jump back here, and just to show that, here's my text layer. And right now we can't see it. Let me turn the track mat off. So there's our animate in and out text layer. I go to it and I select track mat and I use alpha mat, and it disappears because right now nothing has started on this Mr. Mercury layer here. But as we scrub through, it begins to use that Mr. Mercury to create visibility. So then, to reverse that process, I just duplicated those layers And instead of using alpha matte, I alpha inverted it. And so now, as we move through it, the black areas on Mr. Mercury there, you'll see is causing the text to disappear. So you can create your own transitions and animate any object in or out using track mats. Another way that you can use track mats is to hide or to reveal something. This is used a lot with text. So in this example right here, what I have done is I've just created a shape layer, and you can use almost anything as an alpha mat. In this instance, and let me turn that on so we can see it, I've just created a white solid. And so this white solid is large enough to hide this text layer. And so let's just push through that animation real quick so you kind of get an idea of what's going on. So you'll see that in this case, that white solid is being animated, and as it moves over the text, it hides it. And then as the text is animated out from underneath it, it reveals the text. And then we reverse that. In this example, I'm using 2 track mats and 2 instances of this footage here to create this effect. I'm going to jump into this and take a look. I'm going to hide, first of all, this blue area and explore the first layer that we have going on. So the footage is right here, and I'll disable the alpha mat real quick. And you can see that the footage covers, in fact, it's a little bit larger than the entire composition. So I'm using this white rounded rectangle here as the track mat. The footage is on bottom, the track mat is on top. I'm going to go to the footage and I'm going to tell it to use the alpha mat of this white solid to cause the footage underneath it to appear. The next track mat is a little bit smaller, and let me turn that track mat off so that you can see that the size of these 2 pieces of footage are different. One is much larger, it is scaled up, and the other is scaled down. I did apply the black and white effect on the bottom piece of footage and left the top piece of footage alone, maintaining its original color. And so I am using, again, this footage and then another white rounded rectangle as the track mat. And so there's my footage. I'm going to go to it, go to track mat, go to alpha mat. And now the only part of that footage that is appearing is in the rounded rectangle. So with these 2 layered on top of each other at the same timing, we're getting the effect that the top blue area is zoomed in and has color. So I want to take a look at one more example of the Luma Mat. Here we have this solid layer with fractal noise on it, and I've just made a few adjustments and animated the evolution. So I'm going to use this as the Luma Mat. Remember, Luma Mat is based on the bright and dark areas. So we have a lot of variation in this one of going from very dark to very bright and in between. So I'll bring this on top and show you real quick. I have this text layer here, Luma Mat. I'm going to drop it back underneath that fractal noise layer. And we're going to tell that Luma Mat text to use the luminance values of this fractal noise to cause its transparency. So we're going to drop down here to Luma Mat, and there we have it. So you'll see the different values of this text layer appearing and disappearing based on the brightness and darkness levels of that fractal noise. I'll hide that layer and bring up one more, this piece of footage here that we have. Turn that on and you can see that layer. And again, I'm going to apply Luma Mat to that, and we get the different values of that entire effect on that footage. I hope this has been helpful. For more on After Effects and Premiere Pro, take a look at my other tutorials.